I challenge you to a duel.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Movie Duel podcast. My name is Peter and I am your host. On each episode of the Movie Duel podcast we select a subject based around movies and then my guests each pick a film that they think best fits that subject. The only rule being that you can't pick a film that has already been discussed on the podcast. However, you are joining us for one of our bonus quick draw episodes in which I invite on a special guest, or in this case, two special guests, to talk about some of the movie duels of past, give them some of the subjects that we've brought to the podcast, and get them to make a selection of their own. This time around, I am joined by the fantastic Lewis and Elliot from That's Not How It Went Down, which is a relatively new podcast. They've been going for about a year or so, and an award-winning podcast as well, which we do talk about a little bit during this episode. But a fantastic film podcast if you like films and trivia, and obviously films that are based on true events or true stories. It's a really great podcast to listen to and put into your regular rotation. It's on mine. I listen to pretty much every episode that they put out, and it is a fantastic podcast. So I encourage you to check it out. As always, be putting the links to that in the show notes for this episode, and I encourage you to go and listen. And like and follow and subscribe and all that good stuff. And then just a few quick points of order for this episode. As usual, reminder that you can find the links to our social medias and contact information in the show notes to this episode, as well as our link to the Patreon page, in which if you become a super supporter for just $4 a month, you get access to episodes like this a little earlier than everybody else. And some fantastic other content for as little as $1 a month, which is peanuts really. It just helps us to run the podcast, pay for some of the subscriptions for things like Zoom and some of the hosting stuff. So thank you to all the patrons that do contribute to us, and please go check it out. So there is some strong language in this, and there may be some minor spoilers as well for some of the films that we discuss, but I very much hope you enjoy Quick Draw with Lewis and Elliot.
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth! Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom.
So joining me on this edition of Quick Draw are the award-winning hosts of the podcast That's Not How It Went Down. So joining me this week are Lewis and Elliot.
Hello. Evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you guys?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate being here.
Have you sort of come down now from that award-winning status? Is it sort of sunk in now? Or are you still riding that high?
No, we'll never come down. This is a permanent high now, and I just
still riding that wave.
Yeah, I want to live my life in this state of ecstasy for forever. Really. Yeah. It was. Do you know what? It was really nice. It was one of those things where we were like, it's really nice to kind of just be nominated and it sounds cliche, doesn't it? But it's nice to just kind of turn up and be in a room with other people that make independent podcasts. But because we'd been running for about a year by the time we were at the awards, and then as they were announcing the winner, they were sort of describing the way the podcasts work, and they said we really liked the amount of research and everything, and we were looking at each other like, this sounds like our podcast. And then they called our name, and then Lou tells the story better because there's like a time limit, isn't there, of like when the applause kind of stops.
Yeah. 'Cause, like inevitably, because some people are in the middle of rows, they haven't positioned people tactically so the winners are on the edges or anything. So some people are in the middle and shuffling out, and it takes a bit of time. And the music they've picked only goes on for a certain amount of time, so you want to keep the applause going. So Elliot and I were really like. We were so supportive in that regard, so that the applause would sort of die down as they're getting up onto the stage, and you're like, they're not doing speeches or anything, so it's really awkward. They're getting their photo taken, and you want it to be silence. So we were constantly sort of starting the second wind of applause every
Right.
time. But then when we went up, we were up off in like 30 seconds. Yeah, no messing about.
We were no slouches. We were like, we got to keep this thing. We got to keep this feeling high at this award ceremony. We're not letting this die out anyway.
Well, yeah, you want like the reputations and like, oh, those guys, they're so efficient. Look, they were up, they were off. I've got to listen to their podcast.
Excellent. I believe you were given your award by M from Verbal Diorama. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Correct.
we were chatting to I was chatting to Em on Instagram actually way before, and then I didn't realize that as luck would have it, she was going to be presenting the award to us. Yeah, but it was
Excellent.
yeah, it was a nice kind of full circle thing. Yeah, but it was almost like exactly to the day almost that we'd sort of been recording our first episodes, wasn't it? So it was
Yeah.
like perfect bookend to the year for us, and yeah, we didn't expect it at all, but it was lovely. Well, I always say I was so impressed with the amount of work that those guys put into making that Independent Podcast Awards ceremony as good as it is. It was so impressive.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I mean, Verbal Diorama is one of my favorite sort of podcasts as well. And I think that there's a lot of sort of consistency between that and your podcast as well. It's a very sort of fact-based podcast. I mean, tell the listeners that maybe haven't listened to That's Not How It Went Down. Tell them what it's about.
So every week we Lewis just gave me the nod there to be like, go on, you do it. Honestly, we're almost telepathic at this point. So every week we take a movie that's based on a true story or inspired by real events, and one of us will do a deep dive into all of the fact behind what eventually made it up onto the big screen, and we'll try and decide just how accurate it is to the real life events. So yeah, one of us does the deep dive, the other one comes in completely cold, sort of playing the role of the audience, and asks all those questions, those burning questions that you have about, how accurate a movie might be. And sometimes we do movies that are really obviously based on true stories. We've done, biopics in the past, and then other times we take a look at movies that are maybe not quite so obviously based on true stories, but still are rooted in, historical time periods. And we try and sort of glean those interesting nuggets that you wouldn't necessarily think about before.
Yeah, and I mean it's such a fascinating podcast, I think, because I consider myself to be a bit of a trivia geek, and when I've watched a film, I have to read up about it. I have to find, do a bit of a dive into it and sort of see what was the story behind the making of the film, not just biopics and things like that. But to find a podcast like yours where I can still get new information from because of how deep you guys dive into it is just fantastic. I mean, I listened quite recently to your To Kill a Mockingbird episode, which I think it's sort of based on somebody's life and picking from different aspects of history, especially within that sort of civil rights movement and everything else. But there was so much detail in that and stuff I didn't know. Like, obviously, to spoil your episode slightly here, but the Dill character being played based on Truman Capote. It's just, it blew my mind. That I was like, what?
Amazing. But that's what we love as well. And like for the person that's doing the research, you always want to get that reaction out of I always want to get that reaction out of Lewis, where he's like, no way, I can't believe that. But that whole thing of Harper Lee growing up next door to Truman Capote, like you say, and then the character of Dill, who's described as a little boy with duck fluff on his head, and then if you go back and read To Kill a Mockingbird, or you go back and watch the film, you're like, oh my god, yeah, that's 100% exactly like Truman Capote, this kind of wisecracking kid that everyone thought was a little bit annoying and some of that. But you've got the poster behind you, you've got the Jaws poster behind you, and we did an episode a while ago on how Peter Benchley, the author of Jaws, the original book, was inspired by shark attacks that were there was a spate of 5 shark attacks. It was called the 12 Days of Terror in 1916, I think it was. And there was a shark that was dubbed the Matawan Man-Eater because there were 5 shark attacks that went on in this time period, and then that inspired him to write this story of this kind of bloodthirsty shark. And those kind of little nuggets like that are always just always blow us away, and we love
And
revealing them to the audience.
it's always really interesting when you come at it from the film, because it's all well and good having just a list of bullet pointed facts, like, things you get on IMDb that often are about the film trivia, perhaps more about the making of. Sometimes they go into the real story, but it's a much more exciting way of that information coming across when someone goes, so this bit in the film where they refer to da 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 da, is there anything in that? And then the other person goes, well, there was let me read you this. And it's a much more organic way of learning the information, and it gives you context for the information rather than just absorbing a series of statements.
Yeah.
We like to think we've done the work of going, and this is perhaps how it was woven into the narrative of the film that we all know. So that's really, Elliot's right. There's finding the information, and then there's compiling your research in a way that's interesting and relates to the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think I mentioned to you just before Elliot came on the call, I listened today to your Karate Kid episode.
Oh,
which,
cool.
Just based on that being, the kind of film that is, it's not a biopic. It's not, it's not based on true events or anything like that. But, those details of where the inspirations came from for all those different characters and the experiences that they go through, it's just fascinating. And I consider myself a huge fan of Karate Kid, and there was still loads in your episode that I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean that also stemmed from the post-war period after obviously Pearl Harbor, and then the American atomic bombings of Japan and things like that. After the Second World War, there were a ton of Japanese people that had sort of basically befriended GIs and people like that during all their time in Okinawa and in various other places where they had military bases, who ended up coming over to the US because they were like, well, there's more of an opportunity for us over there. And then things like karate and Japanese culture in general became, a really big part of American culture. And then that led to the Karate Kid being made, and so much of the inspiration there from the writer was based on those interactions that Americans had with Japanese in that post-war period. Yeah, there's loads of little things you just never think about until you look into it.
Oh, it's amazing! It's amazing, and you sort of for some of the films as well. You're kind of debunking a lot of what is presented in the films and stuff like that, like your Braveheart episode. You guys are a kind of essentially sort of Ed and Lorraine Warren's worst nightmare. Really.
Oh God! I'm sorry. I thought you were going to compare us to Ed and Lorraine Warren for a second there, and I was about to shut this meeting down right then and there. Steam coming out of our ears.
But you're sort of their nemesis.
Yeah, nemesis.
Because I mean, there was a run of episodes when I first started listening to you guys where Ed and Lorraine Warren came up because I think they come up in the Amityville Horror, and then obviously you've done the two of the Conjuring films.
Yeah,
and amazing.
Well, we've said before that it's not about. Well, it's really hard to remain consistent on our intentions behind our opinions for some of these films, because depending on the film, we're going, well, okay, it's a great film. Now let's explore if it's different from reality. And obviously, when it's a great film, we can go, and it's different, and it's all the better for it. If it's a bad film and it's different, and we think they haven't included stuff that is far more interesting, you go, why have they done that? But with the Conjuring films, it's infuriating because they make out that Ed and Lorraine Warren are these amazing people, and they are. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. And the more we go into the films, the more I hate them. We've just recorded the third one, and which come out in a few weeks, and it is infuriating.
Excellent.
Yeah. And at the end of every Conjuring film, there's like a big boss battle, where you're like, oh my God, they're facing up against the demon or the witch or whatever it is. And absolutely every single time, Lewis will tell me, no, of course that never happened. There was never an enormous boss battle where they faced off against the demon, Kramanar or whatever it's called. That is infuriating, and that is one of those weird ones where that is one of those films where it specifically says at the beginning, based on true events, like in big letters. We've done so many films that are really closely based on true stories, like Footloose and Chicago, which are really, really tight to the history that they represent, but they do not claim to be based on true stories. The Conjuring actively is like, this is a true story. And at the end, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
I feel like I've opened a box here.
Oh,
or a further box. Yeah.
you've opened the Conjuring verse.
So what do you think has been your most sort of popular episode? What's the one that people have sort of gravitated towards?
Conjuring was pretty popular when that first started. They sort of go through phases. Imitation Game we did recently, that was very
Was that
very popular. Yeah, I think Raiders of the Lost Ark has been our biggest hit. I think that was also we just released that at the time that we won the award, so I think there's a bit of a crossover there. But there's not really any rhyme nor reason. There's not a logic of going, it's the most famous one, it's the biggest blockbusters. There's sort of different ones in different categories that seem to have done.
I mean, as soon as I came across your podcast, the one I immediately was drawn to was The Founder, because I had to find out whether or not Ray Kroc was really that much of a bastard.
Oh, he was, yeah.
And he was.
Really was.
Yeah. Well, he's just kind of ruthless, you know. It was kind of like stop at nothing expansion of the business. You know, even when a bunch of people was turning around to him and going, "Mate, this isn't a good idea. We need to slow down this expansion." He was like, "No, I'm not listening to you." And you know, I think he left his wife for somebody else who was sort of more sympathetic to his kind of business urges. And then but that was the story. He married, so he was married, then he left his wife because he wanted to marry another woman, Linda Cardellini's character in the film. But in real life, she was married to somebody else, and so he married somebody in the interim. And when Linda Cardellini's character then got divorced, he immediately divorced his second wife and then shacked up with her.
Oh, Jesus.
And the wife
He
in
had
the middle was like a
holding
stopgap.
wife.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, she was a placeholder, but they didn't include her in the film.
No, it may have been a step too far, I suppose, for that film, because it was that film annoyed me for days after I watched it. I was just like,
oh, really?
Because he's such a likable character at the start, isn't he? You know, you're on board with him, and you sort of cheering him on, and then by the end of it, you just want to deck the fucker.
He just gets worse and worse as the film goes on, doesn't he?
Indeed. Okay, so I invited you guys on to take part in one of our Quick Draw episodes. This is where we delve into the movie jewels of past. I'm going to give you guys 10 of our past subjects that we've talked about on the podcast, and invite you to make a selection of your own. So, guys, are you ready?
Born ready.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I love hearing people's sort of answers to that question. Born ready. That's a new one, I think, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, no, that's the sort of thing my dad would say.
Okay, so we're going to start at the very beginning with our very first episode, which was the most underrated sequel ever, with my choice of Predator 2 from 1990 and original co-hosts Liam's choice of Gremlins 2, a new batch from 1990 as well. So just very quickly before we get into your choices, guys, are you a fan of those two films? What would you have maybe chosen out of those two?
So run them by me again. We had Gremlins 2 and
Predator 2.
Yeah. Is Gremlins 2 the one with the stair lift? Or is that the one where... Is that the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. Lou, take it from here. I'm lost.
I gravitate towards Predator 2.
Yes.
Because I remember watching Predator as probably far too young a child, and was obsessed with it. So instantly wanted to watch the sequel and stuff. And I'm the sort of person. I mean, I've even got a penchant for Alien versus Predator. I know it's awful. Yeah. It's absolute trash. But I will, once I've watched Predator 1 and Predator 2 and the Alien films, I'm like, well, just stick them all on, and I will still enjoy aspects of it. So yeah, I would, of those two, I would gravitate towards Predator 2. Of those two, I did have my own choice though.
We were saying the other day that Gremlins was one of the movies that ushered in the new age of PG-13 movies, because that was a new rating, wasn't it? That got kind of created for that. Anyway, no. Nuggets.
Well, I think the first one wasn't the first one Temple of Doom.
Yeah, it was.
This is why it came up.
It was all Steven Spielberg. It was Temple of Doom, Gremlins, which was I think also Amblin Entertainment, and Poltergeist, which was also Amblin.
Yeah. Does this as a slight spoiler? Does this mean you're doing a Temple of Doom episode?
Well, who could possibly
that's going to be dark. That one.
Or Poltergeist is based on a true story.
Oh yeah, well,
the real history behind Gremlins.
Okay, so well, let's go to you first then, Lewis. What would you have picked for this subject?
Well, I think this is allowed in the rules. I went with Mission Impossible 2.
Oh,
Okay.
don't take my answer.
Are you serious?
Yeah, of course. It's the
Amazing.
you
We
go
didn't
first.
communicate. We didn't
You go
communicate
first.
on this. But I think because a lot of these are about underrated and overrated. So you've got the sort of, there's best sequel ever. But then when you bring the underrated aspect in, we need to, that narrows down the pool. And I think Mission Impossible 2 gets lampooned a lot for some of its sort of slow-mo sequences and Tom Cruise's long
Scandalous.
locks in it. I think it's a cracking action film. I think the music is brilliant. I think some of the fight sequences are so outlandish, so over the top. But yeah, I think it's got such rewatchability. Similar sort of age, I think I was about probably 12, 13 maybe. When's Mission Impossible 2? 2000,
2002, wasn't it?
2002?
Mission Impossible 2?
Yeah.
I think
so
so.
yeah, probably was about 12, 13.
Oh, was it
Oh
2000?
no, 2000. Yeah.
2000. Oh, okay,
2000,
yeah,
yeah.
very young.
Limp Bizkit were on
I-
the soundtrack. They were at the height of their
Oh,
fame.
of course they would. Take a look around. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Mission Impossible 2. But Elliot's picked the same one. Good
2000.
work.
Yeah. It's the most quotable of all the Mission Impossible film. I mean, we could sit here and quote Mission Impossible to the cows come home. You know, I'm trying to think of a good
Then
quote.
feel
from it.
better.
Yeah, would it make you feel any better if I didn't want to do it? To feel better. Yeah, and what's the classic thing as well? Like, that's a fairly ratty nail there, Hugh.
Yeah. Drew Gray Scott is phenomenal
Sean,
in it.
please, Sean. The thing is, Hugh, I am gagging for it. And then he slices the tip of his finger off. But Mission Impossible 2 has got some amazing sequences. So you've got the sequence where he drops down on the wire into the biosite pharmaceutical, laboratory, and is trying to destroy the Chimera whilst preserving the Bellerophon. Which kind of gets overlooked. And then you've got that great bit where he's sort of grabbing Naya, screaming into her face and going, "I'm not going to lose you!" Blows open the hole in the wall and then chucks himself out in that great pose. You've got the bit at the end where they go to the other biosite pharmaceutical bit, where there's all the white doves and the fire and
It's the
amazing.
pinnacle mask reveal. I think it's the best mask reveal across the
amazing.
entire series. I would say. And
Yeah,
and
it's
I think it must be Hans Zimmer, mustn't it? I'm just hearing the music in my head at that point, and it's all like vocal. It's kind of similar to Gladiator. I'm only saying that because it's so similar to the Gladiator music, which would have been around the same year.
that mask reveal at the end where it's like, "This is what's known as getting your gun off."
Oh, it's incredible, yeah.
And then
And then it
of course,
just samples into Limp Bizkit.
amazing scream from him. Yeah, I just think, annoyingly, Mission Impossible 2 is the lowest rated of all the Mission Impossible films on IMDb, which is not, the arbiter of all that's good and evil. But I cannot understand what is wrong with everybody that they are putting Mission Impossible 2 at the bottom of that list. For me, it's like Fallout and Mission Impossible 2 are battling it out for the best in that whole series.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow. Well, I mean, as listeners of this podcast will know, I have quite a severe hatred for Tom Cruise. So do you know what? Actually, though, I think maybe because it's De Palma, I like the first one because I'm quite a big De Palma fan.
Yeah, I like the first one.
I do like a bit of John Woo, but I just don't think Mission Impossible 2 is a Mission Impossible film. It's a good action film, for sure. It's a very good action film, but it's just so over the top, and it's Cruise being so over the top as well.
Yeah, but those first three Mission Impossible films all were stylistically completely different, and so
Yeah.
that's what you kind of felt like. J.J. Abrams comes in and directs Mission Impossible 3, which I actually don't enjoy that much. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman in it. I think it's got some good bits. I think the bit in the Vatican is quite fun. But I don't enjoy it that much. But what I really enjoyed about Mission Impossible as a series was that everyone stylistically was completely disparate from the one that came before it. And then since Christopher McQuarrie's come in, they now all sort of feature on the same plane, which I think is a bit of a shame.
I do need to sort of I keep teasing the idea of watching the rest of them because I think I've seen the first four, and I know there's a lot of good stuff said about some of the latter ones as well. So it's not. It just takes a lot for me to watch a Tom Cruise film, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'll get to him.
four is great. Four is great, and Fallout is brilliant. And then the last sort of two are a little bit kind of stretched, I think. But yeah, I would 2, 4, and whatever Fallout is, 7 or whatever it is. I would stick them in the pile.
6. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that's the first time Mission Impossible 2's come up. So
yes,
great.
And it's come up twice.
If I had to think of a different answer, the only thing I was going to say was maybe Tomorrow Never Dies. If we're going to talk about a sequel to like restarting the franchise,
that's not a bad
Pierce
shout,
Brosnan.
to be fair. Yeah,
I think the Tomorrow Never Dies gets a bit of a bad rap actually, and if you go back and look at it and look at the sequences that we've got, the sequence in Germany that starts in the sort of paper mill, the newspaper offices, and then finishes with the self-driving car. All the stuff at the end with the stealth boat. You've got, great bits of Stamper, stop yelling in my ear. Like there's some really great moments.
I was just about to say that. I was literally just about to say that. Because I used to work with a guy and he bleached blonde, he peroxided his hair. And me and another guy were just going, Mr. Stamper.
I think it gets a bad rap. Tomorrow Never Dies, and maybe Jonathan Pryce's performance as Elliot Carver is a little bit kind of wacky and over the top, but I think it's a really. But
he got a great demise though, just getting chomped up with the big,
amazing
drilly
Give the
thing.
people what they want.
Yeah, it's just my favorite thing watching Elliot Carver with his little tap just going on his keyboard, pretending that he's typing out the story.
Don't you think? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to episode 3, which was the most overrated Best Picture winner, with Liam's choice of Titanic from 97 and my choice of Braveheart from 95. But Elliot, let's go to you first on this one. What would you have picked for that one?
Dear, it's such a difficult shout, isn't it? I mean, it's not that it's overrated. I just think that sometimes they miss the opportunity to give out the award in the right way. So this might come across in the wrong fashion, but don't slate me for it in the comments. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, in my opinion, is the weakest of the Lord of the Rings films.
Okay.
It's and by definition it has to be, because there are so many different strands that you need to wrap up, But I just think that the Fellowship of the Ring, for instance, is such a perfect movie that it feels strange to me that out of the whole trilogy, we look at The Return of the King and give that the best picture. It's an amazing achievement, and and The Lord of the Rings as a franchise deserves a best picture win. But it's almost back to front. You know what I mean?
I think I get the impression that a lot of the Academy voters probably thought, we'll wait until they've done the full trilogy before we start giving them the votes for that. Maybe. I mean, it's a bit like Connery winning for The Untouchables. Like, well, he's probably not going to have another performance where we can give him this award, so we'll give him it for his dodgy Irish accent in The Untouchables. But I can see what you mean. Yeah, I think out of the three, I mean, I would say The Two Towers is the best of the three. It's definitely it's an Empire Strikes Back kind of thing, but it's definitely I think you're right. It probably is the weakest of the three.
I think if I wanted to do an answer that's more kind of palatable because I do love The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. It's just the one that sort of jumps out. But I think if I wanted to do a more palatable answer, it would probably be something like Green Book. Has that come up before?
That's come up before, yeah. I enjoyed Green Book, but I can see why people wouldn't.
It sort of ticks a lot of boxes. Yeah, it ticks a lot of boxes and sort of tells the story in a slightly sort of saccharine way that again, based on a true story, could put it on our list, Lou. So yeah, that's another one that sort of jumps out to me where it got to the end of it and I was like, huh? Yeah, there you go.
Excellent. Okay, what about you, Lewis? What would you have chosen?
To be honest, I probably would have gone with Braveheart as well. I struggled with this one because it's that disparity of winning Best Picture, but seen as overrated. And if the question had been most overrated Best Picture nominee, replete. I could come up with 1,000 suggestions. But looking at the Best Picture winners, I was thinking, probably is Braveheart in that case. I mean, it's interesting looking back, but we did an episode on A Beautiful Mind, and I wasn't blown away by A Beautiful Mind. I found it a bit of a bit of a, I don't know, a bit average at times, but I can
Mm,
see why it's the sort of film that would have won it. But then I thought, does that make it? Is it overrated? Is Beautiful Mind held in nowadays this phenomenal regard? I'm not so sure.
mm.
But yeah, that was so I was flirting with that one, but I think I have to agree with Braveheart, and I love Titanic, so I'm never gonna put that in my answer.
There always so
I,
many
yeah.
different opinions of Titanic. It's always fascinating to hear.
Titanic's brilliant. I can't understand how people don't enjoy Titanic. I think it's a fantastic film.
I love the second. To be fair, it was the first time when we recorded the episode. It was the first time I'd watched it in a long, long time, and I did find myself enjoying it a lot more than I expected to. I
Oh,
mean, it's
brilliant.
the performances in the early part are a bit. Cameron can't do sort of whimsical dialogue at all. I don't think he can't
What
pull
do you
that
mean? Have you,
off.
have you seen True Lies?
Well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose that's a fair point. That's a fair point, but
No,
not in a not not in
I
a
think if you're on
lovey-dovey way.
board, if you're on board with Titanic and the romanticism of it, I think it's such a good film.
No
And I
pun
think
intended.
when people don't like, oh, I know we really struggled avoiding the puns with that one, didn't you? Saying Titanic, is that how it went down? Is
Yeah.
great.
And that's
Um,
just the tip of the iceberg, wasn't it?
yeah,
Oh
but
dear.
I think, yeah, I think you're right. I can see why people struggle with the all the lovey-dovey stuff. It can get a bit too sickly sweet,
Mm.
but I just, yeah, I'm swept away.
This is a hard question, this, because I feel like, I mean, we could list like Shakespeare in Love. I mean, I assume that's another really
Yes.
popular
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Around the World in 80 Days, the David Niven movie from 1950, whatever. I mean, that is a
Yeah.
really weird Best Picture winner. Around the World in 80 Days, because it beat like some pretty big movies.
I
That's a
really
really
thought you were saying the Steve Coogan Arnold Schwarzenegger one then for a second. I was like, did that? Surely that didn't win, did it?
No, that famous remake of an Oscar-winning classic. Yeah, I mean that won Best Picture in 1950, whatever. I mean that's a strange movie to win Best Picture. But anyway,
Fantastic. Okay,
Well, I
so
mean, well,
sorry.
just to round up, I mean, it's a shame we're not doing this in several weeks because depending on what wins this year, we could be having a very different conversation. I mean,
Mm,
if it's not one battle after another or Sinners,
it's
yeah.
got
I
to be
think I
Sinners. It's got to be
I would
Sinners.
probably pick whatever. If it's not one of them, that will be my choice
Yeah.
of most overrated Best Picture winner.
Fantastic. Okay, so then we're moving up to episode 12, which was the best Bond film, with Jamie's choice, The Spy Who Loved Me from 1977, my choice, A GoldenEye from 1995. Now, but Bond generally, guys, are you a fan?
I said I would go first on this, but I'm going to let Elliot take over because I feel if I take his choice or answer first, he's holding up a Goldfinger poster that he has framed. Elliot is Bond aficionado, so I will offer the mic to Elliot and then I'll tell my choice.
My
Okay.
top five, in order from 5 to 1. No, it's such a difficult shout. I mean, I could pick the best Bond, the best film of all of them is Casino Royale. The best Bond film that features all of the great aspect of it is Goldfinger. The best espionage one is From Russia with Love. The best, my favorite is Live
Mm,
and Let Die, because it's got amazing moments. But yeah, I think I would probably pick From Russia with Love.
okay.
I think it's the second one, and I think they really found their feet with the series.
Mm,
From that point onwards, it's rooted in proper espionage, like at that point.
yeah.
It's inspired by true events, featuring trying to get people out of Soviet Russia on a train, basically on the Orient Express type thing. And yeah, I think Robert Shaw's role in that film works perfectly. We
Oh, it's
have
incredible.
we have Bond facing off against his opposite number.
Mm,
And that's what all the books are about as well. This idea of Smersh, or as it becomes Spectre.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I think From Russia with Love is the greatest Bond film.
Yeah, well, it really sort of starts. I mean, you forget about those early Bond films as how much consistency they have, and the narrative of Spectre and everything else. They're all because all those first four, no, well, apart from Goldfinger, I suppose
Well, all
they're
the way up
all
to
agents.
5, yeah.
they're all agents of Blofeld, aren't they? They're all agents of Spectre. All the villains in them.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, number five is You Only Live Twice, which is Blofeld. Number six is On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is Blofeld. Number seven is Diamonds Are Forever, which is Blofeld. So yeah, all the way up to Diamonds Are Forever, they all feature that smirch, schmiert Spionem, little subplot. And yeah, I think that From Russia with Love is the nailed on one for me.
And of course, Rosa Klebb. I mean,
yeah,
what a villain.
Yeah, amazing. And then Tatiana, as the obviously we had Ursula Andress in the first one, but Tatiana appears in the second one, and there's a real point to her. Do you know what I mean? She is part of the storyline as opposed to Honey Rider, who isn't necessarily integral to the story, whereas the whole plot hinges around Tatiana.
And scantily clad fighting gypsy ladies.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. But again, inspired by true events, because as we'll maybe look at in a bonus episode, Ian Fleming was sort of shown around Russia, St. Petersburg, by a guide who had links to the Romani people. Fantastic. So there you go.
Great fact.
Great fact. So, what about you, Lewis? What are you a fan? Are you, or just not as much of a fan as Elliot?
Nowhere near as big as Elliot, and I'm much more. I think I'm much more of a modern fan.
Okay.
Which is maybe a bit lazy. So mine would be Casino Royale. Sort of, it'd be a toss up between that and GoldenEye, because GoldenEye's already been picked. I'm happy to fight for Casino Royale's corner. I think it's cracking film.
I think it has been the most picked. I think.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. That or Skyfall, I think.
See, I think Skyfall is overrated. I'm not a huge fan of Skyfall.
No, it's a bit Home Alone by the end, isn't it?
Yeah. And I was just really irked by the fact that the villain essentially won in that film, which is a bold move, but
It's when they got to the point, really, obviously in the last film, In No Time to Die, they decided that not only were they going to kill off Bond, but they were going to kill off Felix Leiter. They were going to kill off Blofeld. And it just got to the point where things started to become indispensable, and they started to lose what for me makes James Bond, which is that everything is kind of resettable, and everything is kind of there's almost a law to making a Bond film, and they started to sort of throw that out the window in the hopes that they'd be able to chase emotional hits, which didn't pay off.
Yeah. Even in a 3.5 hour film, they couldn't manage to do that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so then we're going on to episode 17, which was the best film based on a toy line, with my choice of Masters of the Universe from 1987 and Vanessa's choice of Clue from 1985. So where were we? We've knocked the continuity now, haven't we? So we'll start with you, Lewis. Yeah.
I struggle with this one. I mean, I remember lambasting Elliot on a podcast for him making a claim that there were plenty of films based on toys, and I was like, "It's rubbish. What other ones are there?" And then he listed loads, and then this question came up. I was like, "Oh, there's enough to have a question about it, clearly." But I still struggled, and then I thought, "Oh no, I'm going to have to go with my guilty pleasure of recent years, and I'll go with Lego Batman."
Great choice. Yeah, great choice.
I think it's just, I mean, it's Will Arnett in his absolute vocal pomp. I could just have him. I mean, it opens with him just going black, and it just gets better and better from there. Yeah, so Lego Batman was I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I don't think anything Lego's sort of come up really. There's a couple,
Really?
I mean, the Lego movie is pretty decent as well. To be fair,
It's an amazing film.
I've
Incredible
got
film.
two young children, so I watch them anyway. So and the play, they're very much in that vein of Pixar and everything else. That sort of high level animation that has that tinge of adult humor to it as well that you can appreciate, and nostalgia as well. It's like Super Mario Brothers. For me, I took the kids to see that a couple of years back, and it just gave me a warm fuzzy feeling as well as being fantastically entertaining.
Yeah.
Elliot, what about you? What would you have gone for?
I'd go for Power Rangers the movie, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, which
was that a toy line first though?
Oh, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it was.
What, you mean it was the TV show before they made the toys?
I'm pretty sure, wasn't it?
Because Bandai were in charge of making the show, and they're a toy company, aren't they? They're not a TV company. So I
It might
wonder.
be.
It's like it's
Well, you
like
can have it. It's fine. It's fine.
yeah. All right, sorry, I've bent the rules a little bit there. But it's
Well,
like
you came out on
poker.
technicality because it wasn't a film first, was it? It was a TV
That's
series,
it's a
then a
TV
toy line,
show.
then a film. Yeah.
I need to look this up now. But it's like Pokemon, you know, people think that Pokemon was like it was a video game first, wasn't it? And then
Yeah.
it became a trading card thing. I'm not arguing my point here.
I was gonna say.
I'm boxing myself into a corner. Anyway, I'm going to stick with it. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. Again, another film that I think gets quite unfairly lambasted. I think there's a lot of it's viewed as being very camp, but I think it's made with real heart and everybody throws themselves into it 100%. You know, like it really matters. And you have some really like quite deep performances in it. The guy playing like Zordon is pretty intense. The actress who plays what's her name who on the sort of mystical planet who gives them the magical powers.
Oh God.
And
Yeah.
then of course you've got Paul Freeman giving her
Oh.
unbelievable performances Ivan Ooze. And yeah, I really like it. I think it's actually a really well made film. It's got some cool stunts in it as well, man.
He can make the line "I smell teenagers" sinister still.
Yeah. What's
without
the
any
one,
undertones to it.
What's the one where he says they're describing? Is her name Dosia or something? The one on the alley says, "These sticks, do they have a whistling sound?" And the bird creature goes, "Nah, it was more like nails on a chalkboard." That's the one that always comes back to me. Would you like us to take another crack at it? How about taking another quack at it? Like blows him up. It's just got such like repeatability for me. I love it. I think it's so great. I'm looking it up right now to see if Power Rangers was a toy first. Power Rangers. Here we go.
Instruct the lawyers.
Oh shoot! Yeah, it's an American media
super,
franchise.
Super something. It was based. It was originally a Japanese show, I think, because then they took the Japanese action scenes from that show and made the American sort of human scenes, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And they sort of rebranded it. It was all the action pieces and the special effects and the Zoid battles at the end were pre-filmed in Japan. Super Sentai, is it something like that?
Yeah, Super Sentai toy. I'm reading here. It says Bandai partnered with Saban Entertainment to create action figures alongside the TV debut. So it was conceived as a toy-driven franchise. So there you go.
You can have it on a technicality. Hey. Okay. So we're moving into episode 30, which was the best fictional sports movie, with Jamie's choice of Warrior from 2011 and my choice of The Karate Kid from 1984.
Well, is it fictional, Peter?
Well, this is it, isn't it? You know, I mean, it's fictional enough. It's a technicality.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to you, Elliot, first for this one.
I'll pick similar sort of time period to what all of my picks have been so far. Really, I'm going to pick the Mighty Ducks.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I really like the Mighty Ducks, and that's another one that ended up sort of inspiring real life because Disney then created their own NHL hockey team in Florida, I think. I can't remember, but they created their own franchise, which they ended up calling the Mighty Ducks, because that film did so well. But anyway, that's just a little tidbit. But yeah, I think it's great. I think the fact that it's driven by kids, so it's like a movie for children, with a main cast of kids, which is quite a unique thing to do, like one of those underdog sports stories, but have everyone, be kids in the thing. I thought it just really appealed to me as a youngster. And actually, the sequels are great as well. Mighty Ducks 2 and Mighty Ducks 3. They, it started a nice little kind of chain of movies. So yeah, that's my pick.
Fantastic. And what about you, Lewis?
I was a bit cheeky here because it didn't come with any caveats. And actually, my watching experience of those kind of sports movies is pretty minimal. I was like, every sports movie I've seen is based on a true story. So I then thought, if I can tweak the definition, best fictional sport movie, I went with the 1975 Rollerball.
Wow. Yeah, well, it's a sport.
Which I just think, I remember watching that. I think my dad showed it me when I was a youngster, and I just couldn't believe a film could exist like that, like a sci-fi sports film. It's just a real like genre-bending, very extravagant film. I don't think it's, can't remember the last time I watched it, several years ago, and it's it doesn't necessarily hold water, but it's kind of in that same world as like Starship Troopers. It has a real
Yes. Yeah.
its social commentary is actually quite good for
Yeah.
quite a silly film. So yeah, that's what I had to go for because I just didn't have much to go off in terms of
It's got quite
fictional sports
it's
movies.
it's got quite an interesting world that it sort of builds, hasn't it? It's not just
Yeah, exactly.
a silly sort of sports movie. It builds a world
Mhm.
around it, which is really fascinating. But yeah, have you ever seen the remake?
No, I would, I
Yeah,
wouldn't, I
that is
wouldn't
awful.
give it the time of day. That's why I started with 1975, just to clarify.
Excellent. Okay, so well, I think we'll take a short break at this moment in time, and we'll be back in a moment with some more subjects for you guys. Okay, so welcome to the intermission. So this is the part of the episode in which I ask my guests a random question, a question that they haven't prepared for, and get their honest first answers. So, guys, are you ready for your intermission question?
Oh, I don't know. Could be,
Yes.
yeah, hit us.
Okay, so if you were making a biopic film about each other, who would you get to play the other person? And what would be the biggest exaggeration you would put in the film? Whoever
Biggest
wants to go first.
exaggeration I would make about Lou.
Keep it clean as well.
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to keep it clean, to be fair.
I'm struggling with who I'd get to play you.
Oh, see, I'm struggling with the other way around. I know who I'd get to play you, but I can't think of the exaggeration I want to make.
Actually, no, is that good enough?
Ha!
Will you go, Elliot, while he's still
Yeah,
thinking?
go on.
All right. Well, if I'm going to have somebody play Lewis in the film of his life, I think the correct choice has to be Andrew Garfield. I think he's, they don't look dissimilar. I think he's softly spoken enough. I think he's got the posture that Lewis carries himself very well. He's got very good posture, and I think we have to give credit where credit's due to Andrew Garfield and say that yeah, I'll stick him in there like that. The biggest exaggeration I would make, I think we could really turn. So Lewis has spent a lot of years working as an actor and as a puppeteer and as a puppetry director. Probably most famously, I would say, on Warhorse, the world famous show that's been at the National and been on international tours and various things like that. So I would exaggerate that and have him on the battlefield as the horse. But he'd still be in the horse, so there'd be an enormous battle, like real life battle going on around, and you'd be inside the horse, like doing the puppetry and stuff like that, like as the bullets are like pinging around, everything like that. And you got someone dressed in like World War One apparel on top, being like, "Oh, rally around me, boys!" I think that would be the scene I'd stick in there.
Well, I'd watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely. What about you, Lewis?
I think I would have, I'm struggling here. I think I would have Andrew Lincoln play Elliot.
Nice.
And actually, interesting, a lot of people say I look like Andrew Lincoln, but there's a thing here that at drama school where Elliot and I both met, we would constantly, at drama school and then since, get mistaken for each other. Now, I don't think we ever looked that alike, but I think maybe our demeanor was quite similar. So for that reason, the fact that people think Andrew Lincoln looks like me, and I actually think Andrew Lincoln would play Elliot very well, that works in my brain. And the biggest exaggeration I'd make, I would put Andrew Lincoln's performance of Elliot in a job that's like incredibly noisy and incredibly unnecessarily stressful. So I'd put maybe Elliot in like a kitchen as like, Bradley Cooper's Burnt or whatever. The idea of Elliot in that environment, I mean, if I exaggerated it, he would be enjoying it and having the time of his life in there. If I was to play it honestly, he'd be forced into the kitchen into that job, and he would be the grumpiest.
Yeah.
I would love to see, yeah, how you'd function in that regard. So maybe I'll do a little acting exercise with Andrew Lincoln and just be like,
just for reference there as well. Just for reference, that I sit in this vocal booth all day long by myself, listening to the sound of my own voice. So the idea of being in a kitchen that's whizzing around and people like screaming at me and telling me, be like, "Oh, how's the mashed potato coming?" I would honestly be like, "Ah!" Like after about 10 minutes, so my head would explode.
Excellent. See, sitting in a booth on your own all day sounds like heaven to me.
Oh yeah, just listening to the sound
I
of my
want
own
your
voice.
job.
Yeah.
I want your job.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, excellent choices, and I'd definitely pay to see both of those films. So.
Nice.
We'll call that the end of the intermission, and we'll head back to the main episode. Okay, so we are coming back with episode 31 and the most overrated Disney film, with Vanessa's choice of Mary Poppins from 1954 and my
Ouch.
choice of The Lion King from 1994.
What? Mary Poppins and the Lion King. Oh my god. Unbelievable.
So I think we're coming. Lewis, I think we're going to you first on this one.
Well, I'm going to pick something that I think Elliot might react the same way to, because again, it's the overrated angle. Because I think Disney films tend to be rated fairly well. I can't think of a film that is rated massively that I think is awful. So I'm going to pick Frozen, just because I think it's so massive, and I think there are better Disney films.
Okay.
So I think it's great. I really enjoy Frozen, but the place it holds as in terms of the overrated definition, I think it, yeah, I think that scans.
Yeah, I think it's very, of that modern era of Disney, the sort of CG Disney. It's there, isn't it? That's the film I think everybody thinks about when you talk about that era of Disney. And I think films like Tangled,
I agree.
Wreck-It Ralph are much better as whole films. Frozen is great, and it tells such a great story and a different kind of story to what Disney. A slightly different story, and a different interpretation of what love is and true love and everything else. It's great. It's fantastic. The songs are great, but I don't think it's not the best.
Yeah, I agree with you when you say about Tangled. I think Tangled should have the standing that something like Frozen does. Actually, I think it's a really well-made film with much more interesting characters. But yeah, anyway,
the songs are better.
Yeah, they are. 100%.
They're not as catchy. I think that's probably the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not a snowman.
There's not a snowman. There's not a Let It Go in there. No. But Elliot, what about you?
We had a look at this a few weeks ago because we were sort of doing some bonus episodes, and I mentioned it to you in the episode. I'm not a massive fan of Aladdin. I just don't. Yeah. There's a lot of people, a lot of guys, my age and our age, and they're kind of like, that's the one that they really kind of circle back to all the time, and I just don't get it. I don't think beyond. There's a couple of good songs in there. There's like Whole New World and maybe Friend Like Me. I think Robin Williams does a lot of heavy lifting in that movie. And I think I don't think it's anything without Robin Williams, is it? No, if you take the moments with the genie out of it, I actually think it's a bit boring. So yeah, Aladdin would be the one that and actually I went to see the show in the West End a few years ago and was like, I really didn't enjoy it. And me and my partner were watching it. We came out in at the interval and there was an American couple there and they were like, "Isn't this just like the greatest thing you've ever seen?" And we were like, and we were really not enjoying it. So yeah, I think it's just Aladdin in general. I don't quite get.
I mean, it was one of the more popular ones of the sort of live action remakes that they've done over the last 10 years with Will Smith in and that. And I just thought that was terrible. That was god awful.
Yeah, it made like $1 billion, that movie.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That and Beauty and the Beast. I don't think I've rated any of the live action remakes, to be fair, but
The Jungle Book's quite good, the Jon Favreau version.
Oh yeah.
That's quite a good film. Bad. Yeah, but that was one of the. I think that was maybe the first one. The first, yeah.
Was it?
Oh, was it?
So it all downhill from there.
It was very much. Okay, so where are we going next? So episode 34, which was the best British gangster film. This was Tarquin's choice of The Craze from 1990 and Jamie's choice of The Long Good Friday from 1980. So, yeah, Elliot, I mean, generally, are you a fan of gangster films?
Yeah, I am. It's not necessarily my sort of go-to. I really like, obviously people would talk about Scorsese and they talk about a lot of the kind of gangster films. I'm a big fan of like police procedurals. So I really enjoy the Sidney Lumet films of the 1970s. I love Serpico. I love Dog Day Afternoon, but then they're not, whilst they are about crime and organized crime and heist and things like that, I don't think you'd necessarily put them in the kind of gangster category, but I'm more interested in that. I guess kind of like when crooks mess it up, rather than, Dog Day Afternoon's such a great one because it's about a pair of bumbling bank robbers that botch the whole thing, and that's more interesting to me than looking at like career criminals in a way.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of my favorite British gangster film, can I put The Italian Job in there? Does that sort of scan?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, yeah.
They're pretty gangsterish, aren't they? But again, that is just such a sort of black comedy. The whole thing is just how everything kind of goes awry, and they think they're going to get away with it, and then
Yeah.
of course they're dangling over the edge, and it's like what's he say? Well, hold on a minute. I've got a great idea. You've got all that kind of stuff in there, and actually, the sequence with "You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off." That's filmed in Crystal Palace Park, which is
Crystal Palace
Oh,
Park,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
where we both lived for many years. So that's just another thing that ties it in for me. But yeah, I really like The Italian Job, and I like the remake as well. Actually, I like the Mark Wahlberg film.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But that original it's it's a proper caper, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe that film. It's just, and some of the work, the action set pieces in there are just amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's a great payoff, all the way to get to that chase with the minis. But there's all those stories when they were running it around the test track, the oval on the top of the building, and all of the people that worked there when they were doing the jump between the buildings were turning away. They couldn't even watch it. There was like I couldn't believe that they were doing that. But yeah, I've got a real soft spot for The Italian Job.
Amazing. That's a great choice. Great choice. Lewis, what about you?
I thought The Long Good Friday was a great shout, and that's a bit of a classic. I was British gangster film. I don't have as much of a penchant for. I don't know if it's because I am British, so in the American gangster films, I find more otherworldly. Like it's easier to separate. I
Yeah.
find sometimes the British one's a bit comical. So I was thinking of like Layer Cake's an obvious one, but I think it's very good. But I don't put it as a an absolute classic. So I went slightly left field again. I think it's allowed, but I went with Eastern Promises.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Great
Like
shout.
British gangster film.
Yeah.
Because I remember that. I think that's the first film I saw with Viggo Mortensen after Lord of the Rings. Because I was obsessed with Lord of the Rings. I was like, what else? What else has he done? And it's obviously written by Stephen Knight, who is a phenomenal writer. And yeah, I just think it's a very unique film. And yeah, because the British gangster film scene isn't as much my tipple, I had to sort of think, well, what other gangster films are there? Not necessarily British gangsters, but set in Britain. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and now I need to rewatch it now because it's the more
That's
I
a
think
great
about it, the
shout.
more
Yeah.
excited I am.
Yeah. I mean that whole fight scene in the sauna is
Oh,
just
Mm.
it's just incredible. It's incredible. You don't need to see the cracking Viggo Mortensen's ass, but there we go. But yeah, it's a great shout. I've not watched that in a long time because
yeah.
he did that quite quickly after the History of Violence, I think, didn't he? It was
Yeah,
sort of
also a very good film.
Oh, that's a great film as well, isn't it? Yeah, I love that.
Amazing. Great choice. Okay, so episode 35 we're coming to next, which was the best anti-hero movie, with Ben's choice of Falling Down from 1993 and Jamie's choice of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest from 1975. So, Lewis, I think we're coming to you first.
Yeah, this is probably the broadest one. This is probably the one where I had the biggest choice, I think. So I sort of struggled to narrow it down. I think what I'm going to go with though is There Will Be Blood.
Yes, I think
In
that's
terms
come up
of just
before, but that's a great choice.
yeah, okay, cool. Because I mean the other ones I thought about. Well, actually, no, I won't say in case they're Elliot's choices. Maybe I'll say afterwards. But there were other ones I thought about, but they were almost too redemptive.
Yes.
The sort of the anti-hero became a hero perhaps by the end. So yeah, I thought There Will Be Blood is just it's got one of the greatest performances in cinema
Yeah.
history, I
I mean,
think, from
talk about
Daniel Day-Lewis.
quotable films.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yes,
recently
that
somebody
was
sent me. I'd never seen it before. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I was howling at it. The SNL did a sketch It was Bill Hader playing Daniel Plainview, and he. The idea is that he hosts this show called "I Drink Your Milkshake," and it's basically him going through into these diners where people are drinking milkshakes with this big straw. It's fantastic. You got to watch it. And he's
Okay,
like,
perfect.
I drink your milkshake.
Drainage.
But yeah, that is a fantastic choice. I need to watch that again. I've not watched it for a while, but it's just epic, absolutely epic. And I'm not normally a big fan of Daniel Day-Lewis. I find him a bit, I don't know, what's the word?
Actory.
Yes, he is very actory.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
incredible. Just the amount he sweats in that film is just incredible.
He just looks like he's made of oil. It's incredible. Yeah.
It's amazing when you watch something like that. I mean, we could talk to We're Blue in the face about how good Daniel Day-Lewis is in There Will Be Blood, but it's the physical performance as well as everything else. The way that he changes his the way that his body works. I mean, it's something I don't think I've seen a performance like that apart from Mark Rylance in what's it called?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem,
Yeah.
the play where he walked out onto stage, and I was like, holy shit! Like he's a completely different person, physically, and it's an amazing thing to it's one thing to do that on stage and be like and carry that off, but to do it on film and to do it so beautifully, it's an amazing achievement.
And to have that sort of that chemistry he has with Paul Dano in that film.
Tarantino loves it.
Oh, I've not lost so much respect for somebody in the last however many months since he came out with that. I cannot believe that.
Gone on a bit of a weird one, hasn't he? I don't understand that, but never mind.
Well, what about you, Elliot? What would you have chosen?
Well, I think I sort of shot myself in the foot a little bit because I mentioned it earlier, but Dog Day Afternoon is one of my all-time favorite movies. I think we did it on the podcast a few months ago now, but it's Sidney Lumet came from a background of theatre directing, and then I think that's why he does those movies that are set in tight spaces so brilliantly well, like 12 Angry Men and Network and things like that, where everything sort of takes place in a very kind of condensed atmosphere. Al Pacino's portrayal of Sonny in Dog Day Afternoon, he's obviously a villain. He's robbing a bank. But, we kind of feel sorry for him. We empathize with him. We like him. And actually the people in real life said that he was a hoot, said that he was great to be around, and that if he hadn't been holding the bank up, they would have loved to have spent a Saturday night with him, And actually, when you sort of read up on the character after the movie as well, he's just a bit of it's just a kind of greasy character. But that film, I just love it. I think it's such a well-made movie. I love it.
Greasy character, I like that.
He is he's just a greaseball, and actually he tried to, for the rest of his life, he tried to sort of live off the back of Al Pacino playing him in a movie. He went down the street saying, I'm Al Pacino, I'm the dog. Really, weird fella.
Yeah. Okay, so then we're moving to episode 39, which was the worst MCU film, with Nicole's choice of Eternals from 2021 and Jamie's choice of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania from 2023.
Thank God I haven't seen either of those movies. I just steer clear of them.
Well, I mean, Lewis, coming to you first. Are we coming to you first? No, we're not. We're coming to you first, aren't we, Elliot? Sorry.
Sure, why not?
Are you generally a fan of superhero movies, and in particular the MCU?
Yeah, I thought there were loads of amazing achievements that they made in that first kind of batch of, I think that the Captain America 2 and 3 are both excellent. I think that the Avengers, the first 3 I think Infinity War is the best movie of that whole canon. By a mile. I think obviously Endgame gets more applauded, similar to what we were talking about earlier with Return of the King, because they wrap up all the storyline and everyone loves that, which is fine. But it's fine. But yeah, I think there's loads of great films in there. My least favorite of all is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Okay. I can't stand that film. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man because those movies came out when we were about 10, the Tobey Maguire films, and I remember going to the cinema to see them and being blown away by the web swinging and all that kind of stuff. They abandoned so many of the things that make Spider-Man good in those films. There's no web swinging, you know, we're not set in New York anymore, which is really rough. And everything's undercut with a joke every 30 seconds. So nothing lands, you know, everything's just about wacky characters. Every character on the screen when they go on their holiday to Italy, Venice, or wherever they go, every person on that bus is a wacky character. All of them. Not a one of them is just like a sort of like sounding board. They are all kooky characters. I find it insufferable to watch. I can't bear it.
Wow.
Sorry.
No,
just write like just write good characters. You don't like, not everybody has to be like, you've got like the wacky like nerdy one, you've got the wacky bully one, you've got the wacky like spaced out one, the teachers are wacky. I'm like, God, geez, this is too much.
Well, half of them have been blipped out of existence for 5 years.
Thank God for that. And
Fair enough.
Not a day too short.
Lewis, what would you have gone for?
I think the first three phases is 3 or 4 that culminates in Endgame is towards the end of three, isn't it? Yeah. So I think the first 3 phases are really good. I always equate the Marvel films of that era. They're kind of, at the very least, usually they're like M&S Dine In for Two. Like they're solid. You know what you're getting. Decent grub. And every so often you get one that's like, actually, this is really good. But the one that isn't, and that I just can't stand, is Thor: Dark World.
Yes.
The Thor films in general aren't my cup of tea, and I had to be really persuaded to go and watch Ragnarok, which I did enjoy. But Thor: Dark World is, I dislike it for the fact that it's just a sort of more Thor version of the first film, but it's got the most of Tom Hiddleston in it as well, and I cannot stand Tom Hiddleston. Unfortunately, there's probably the same way you can't stand Tom Cruise. I find him, and because that's when he started to realize that he was incredibly famous for this role, and I find him possibly the most toe curling actor to watch.
Wow.
in his like as his like his PR when he's just on chat shows and stuff like that, and that just, now I can't separate that from what he does in films. So yeah, not a fan.
Oh dear. So you didn't watch the Loki series then?
Absolutely not. No. I've sort of not watched anything since phase 3 finished, to be honest. I've watched a couple and then gone, no, not for me.
Well, you probably could have added to your list on many of them, to be fair.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I quite like Quantum Mania. Everybody else seems to hate it. So I'm waiting for the day that somebody agrees with me, but that's probably a long way off, I'm afraid. And then we're into our final subject for you guys. So episode 49, which was a banger, this one. The best Patrick Swayze film. Lewis, do you like a bit of Mr. Swayze?
Well, yeah, but not to the extent where I was like sort of going, okay, let's put up the list. I was thinking, okay, maybe like 3 I can choose from, probably. Dirty Dancing being one of them. Point Break, obviously. But then I had forgotten that he was in this, and I thought, oh, okay, I can pick that in that case. I'm going to go with Donnie Darko.
Okay, yeah.
Just because he's in it. It's not a Patrick Swayze film, but he is in it. And I think of the films, I'm Dirty Dancing is a guilty pleasure, but yeah, I remember really enjoying Donnie Darko when I found it very again, I watched it at a young age and I was like, oh wow, cinema can do this. so yeah, that's why I chose it.
Well, I think it was a bit, almost a bit of a second wave for Swayze, I think, wasn't it? And I think that it was a point. Donnie Darko was a point where people sort of saw him as an actor rather than just Patrick Swayze.
For sure.
And he sort of picked up quite a few nice little roles from then on, and obviously, unfortunately, he didn't.
Take it too soon.
He didn't get a chance to really have a twilight of his career, I suppose.
Yeah,
but it's a good shout. I mean, for Patrick Swayze to play a paedophile, and it's just it's a good choice. Good choice. Elliot, what about you?
It's a very specific category. The greatest Patrick Swayze film. That is really niche. I
Well,
mean, I
sometimes just a peek behind the curtain. Sometimes we build it around choices of films rather than necessarily just.
uh-huh.
Oh
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
We know exactly how that works. Yeah, we're the same.
Um, I think I would pick The Outsiders. I think that whole kind of 1950s vibe of the what are they called, the greasers and the socks or whatever they're called. Yeah, and that sort of started the career of so many actors, didn't it? It was like Ralph Macchio, what's his name, Matt Dillon,
Dylan was
your
Cruise in
your
that as
your
well.
favorite Tom
Yeah,
Cruise.
yeah.
um,
I remember
yeah,
watching it. We watched it at school for some reason. I can't remember why.
it was on the syllabus for a long time, The Outsiders, for some
Was it?
reason. The novel, yeah, I don't know why. Maybe they just thought it was like a perfect slice of sort of Americana. But I would pick The Outsiders. I think that's a really interesting film, and the fact that sort of Patrick Swayze plays the older brother who's meant to have a little bit more of something about him. He doesn't feel like he's such a waste of space.
Yeah,
I think that's a nice role for him to play, and it sort of started that feeling of him playing quite stoic characters, because he's never very like flamboyant in films, is he? He's always very kind of pared
Mm.
back and pretty
yeah,
stoic figure, and I think that sort of started with The Outsiders. So yeah, I'll go with that.
yeah. I mean, I equated it when we did recorded the episode. He has this look about him, Patrick Swayze, that I described as his face is like somebody's farted and it really smells, but he's trying his best not to acknowledge it.
With your
Basically,
face, Patrick, with your face, like an undiluted buff.
yes, exactly, exactly. And it's always the same. It's always the same. And his facial expressions are never anything other than that.
It's amazing how some actors can just sort of not get away with it, but they can just go through their entire career just doing what they do, just playing themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Even someone like Patrick Swayze, who's like not, you would feel like it would be fairly easy for him to move into different kind of genres and things like that. But he's just able to just be who he is all the way through and
yeah,
not be kind of lampooned as just like a one trick pony. It's not like
yeah.
a Hugh Grant or anything like that. He's
Plus,
just
that he never got to that sort of stage of, although we're saying the best Patrick Swayze film, I mean, a couple of, probably sort of Roadhouse, you could maybe argue is that kind of thing, but he never got into like a Steven Seagal film or a Statham film or things like, they're the kind of, he never got stuck in that rut, did he?
Hmm.
For whatever reason. I think he sort of fell out of favor in the mid-90s, maybe.
maybe I assume that he probably got started to get pushed into like rom-coms after Ghost came out, and I think he was probably the sort of person that just did what he felt he wanted to, and wasn't really bothered about kind of being necessarily the biggest star in the world. I think he just wanted to kind of just kind of cruise through. Sorry not to wind you up again with Cruise, but just kind of like exist as his own actor, and I think he, to all intents and purposes, I think he probably did that. And like you say, it's just a shame that we didn't get to see him do more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it. That's your list of subjects for today, guys. Listen, thank you so much.
Who won?
Oh.
Come on, Pete, you got to pick. We're very competitive as a duo.
I don't know. You both got off to a bad start with Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, can it in?
Oh,
We both
I don't know.
lose.
I think it is a tie. Yeah, I think it is a tie. I'm afraid you both had some very good choices. There's some very interesting choices for sure. But yeah, I'll call it a draw. I don't want to start the sort of.
It's very egalitarian of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we find out tomorrow we stop the podcast because one of us won.
There was a rift reported in that's how it went down.
But yeah, do you want to take this opportunity, guys, to let people know where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, and maybe what you've got coming up on the podcast?
Yeah, you can listen to new episodes of That's Not How It Went Down every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and all the good ones. You can drop us a line either on Spotify, you can leave a comment there, or you can get in touch at TNHIWD. That's Not How It Went Down on Instagram and on TikTok as well, and also on YouTube. We've got new episodes drop every single Tuesday, and we're also going to be flirting in the next few weeks and months with some bonus content as well, where we take a look at movies that are loosely based on true stories. Things like Cocaine Bear, Aladdin, which we talked about earlier, The Mask of Zorro. We've got episodes on Ocean's 11. All things that you might not know are inspired by true events. So yes, find us wherever you get your podcasts and drop us a line if there's a movie that you would like to hear us take a deep dive into. We're always very interested to hear what movies people would like to see.
Fantastic. Yeah, go and check it out. I mean, it's now a podcast that is in my regular rotation, and I absolutely love it. So keep up the good work, guys. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, man.
So that just leaves me to say goodbye. For Elliot, say goodbye.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
And for Lewis to say,
I'm finished.